Devil here, Kenny Danisko, three-time Stanley Cup champion of the New Jersey Devils. And you're listening to the Uncle Puckers New Jersey Devils podcast with Chris, Dan, Bobby, and Tony, the Uncle Puckers. Let's go, Devils!
From The Omen.
It's also used in the Doors movie. Remember that one?
Yes, it is. When he's running around the apartment with the photographer, right? That he's having the affair with, right?
Yeah,
and he's hooking up with her. She's a reporter.
Yep.
That was a terrible movie, I have to say. I really did not like the Doors movie. But we are the Uncle Puckers. Tony is MIA this evening, so it's just the three of us. I'm Chris, Bob, and Dan. Dan, how was your trip, man?
All right, with family and I, we went down to Florida, do the Orlando thing, Disney World and all that stuff. Came back with a few mementos, including possibly COVID, I'm thinking. Like 2 or 3 of us have it.
That's Florida COVID. Oh, no.
Yeah, we got some Florida COVID.
Kind of crazy. I was watching the news the other day, and they were talking about Florida, and there's apparently a bad malaria outbreak happening out there.
Maybe that's what it is.
A really bad. It might be malaria, and there was another old ancient disease that we basically killed off, but it's coming back full force in Florida.
It was the bubonic plague, maybe.
Might be, and they were saying DeSantis took all of his major public health officials on the campaign trail with him. So there's nobody even in Florida that kind of knows what the hell's going on. And not to mention, I'm sure that Ron DeSantis probably thinks malaria is fake, and
he's probably got an alligator in charge of that department anyway. It's probably not even a human being. But it was overall a good time until the last few days where people started getting sicker and sicker, and what a hell ride, driving back up. We drove, and
so
God,
who do you?
We flew, but
how many people have COVID out of the 6 of you? Do you think?
I think one of the kids has it too, but pretty mild, and it's more like me and the wife who are just feeling really under the weather. I've had it a couple times. I think a lot of people we know have. I think you have, right?
Yeah,
I have. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's for most times for most people, it's just a really rotten, cold, flu-like thing. That's what I'm feeling.
I don't know what it actually feels like. I have had COVID twice, and both times I am completely asymptomatic.
That's pretty amazing.
Never had a single symptom from it, but I was positive twice. How about you, Bob? How bad was your COVID?
I had coming back from one of my work trips. I had a fever, that really slight fever, whatever you're supposed to look for, that 99 or whatever it was, for one night, and I was just kind of fell asleep on the couch watching TV early, in the evening. Got through that night. That was it. I was symptom free for the rest of the week as I hibernated in my basement.
Yeah.
So maybe there was a little bit of a cough that came at the end, but I was otherwise itching to go to the gym or do whatever. I was fine.
Yeah, different people got it different ways. A couple of guys in my hockey team got it so bad, they were out for a while. And then other guys, they're like, I can't believe I'm tested positive because I feel fine.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it is a crazy disease, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gifts that keeps on giving. I don't know about you guys, but I think this past spring and summer, I gave it almost zero thought,
Yeah, absolutely zero thought this year.
Yeah, it seems like we're kind of out of the woods, but it's still around. It's, it's fun.
And you were in Florida, so you're bound to come back with.
They don't have COVID in Florida.
No, I forgot. Yeah,
so
COVID.
You didn't get it there.
It stops right at
Georgia
the
rest
border. Yeah, that's it.
Still, don't drink the water. And Florida water is kind of funny tasting. I don't know if you ever had the water in Florida.
I haven't been to Florida in a long time, and I have no desire to go back.
Lived in Florida. I don't like Florida.
No matter where you go, the water tastes fine. I wish Tony was here. I want to ask him about why the water in Florida tastes so bad. But
yeah,
I don't know. You ever get drunk at a Devils game and stay in a hotel and try to drink the Newark tap water?
Well, that's true. We grew up in the shadow of Steve Geigen.
There's a lot of water, but there's a lot of tap water in Jersey that I won't drink either. Even over by my work, on the island, that water is nasty.
I mean, I don't think it's known as the clean water state, you know?
Yeah, no. But you would think Florida should be, right? Florida is like, subtropical. They have, it should have clean, fresh water, but they
It's
don't.
true, though. They did have a lot of malaria, back in the day.
And apparently now, too.
But you know what's funny? If you go to, like, Orlando, and you go to, like, Disney World, you don't see any mosquitoes. There's way more mosquitoes up here than there are down there. Now, I don't know what they spray, but maybe it's just COVID itself that kills the mosquito. I don't know what it is.
Cancer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I didn't see any mosquitoes, so maybe it's not malaria after all.
I don't know. I'm staying out of Florida.
Yeah.
That's all. So, guys, we are 2.5 weeks away from the summer ending. We're officially going to be, September, and then we got about, another month or so before preseason rolls around.
I can't wait. This is slow for this time of year for hockey, right? It's painful.
It is painful, and that's exactly it. It's fucking painful. Like, none of it, like, it's so, I want to come out here and talk about the Devils, and it's just like, we're talking about the same things.
And then also with your casual friends, right? Like, because we're all, like, Devils nuts and hockey nuts, and we talk about the Devils constantly. We're looking for news. But, like, just, like, family and other friends, like, there's nothing to talk about with them. They're like, they don't even know about the minor moves that happened in the off season, and there's just no hockey going on. So it's kind of such a dead time of year.
I mean, we have preseason football, so that's at least something.
Yes.
But again, I'm being a Viking fan, and my second favorite team my whole life was always the Jets, just because for a long time before there was DirecTV and the Sunday Ticket and shit, I couldn't watch Viking games, so I watched Jet games. But now my conundrum is I spent the last 18 years completely hating Aaron Rodgers because he's on the Packers, and now he's on the Jets, and I can't watch him. The national media is
you can't not watch him. He's on HBO. He's everywhere.
Well, I started watching. Did you watch any of the Hard Knocks?
I did
on
not.
HBO?
I did see some promos for it. That's about as far as I got.
It's an hour-long propaganda film of Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's it. It is like the NFL's just rolled up this big bullshit of Aaron Rodgers, shove it down our throat, and I started watching it like maybe a half hour in. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I know he's coming across as this great guy now, and you don't know Aaron. Aaron's not that. This isn't the Aaron from the Packers. This is the Aaron that loves everybody and loves football.
I do like the ayahuasca Aaron though. Like, what's all that crazy background? I mean, what is he seeing now? He's seeing dark, shadowy figures, sometimes with dead rabbits and hatchets. What is this story with him?
I don't know this story.
Oh, you don't know the story?
No,
I don't know if it's peyote or ayahuasca, but
ayahuasca.
He went out on some trip, and ever since then, he still has these visions. He's been saying. I'll see if I can find the article and forward it to you. It was pretty wild.
Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, I don't like. The Aaron Rodgers that goes out there and takes, tons of hallucinogenics and then goes on national TV and talks about it and his trips and all. I like that. Yep. I think that's cool. Do it, whatever you got to do. But he was last 2 years ago on his what is it? How do you say it?
Ayahuasca, I think it is.
Ayahuasca trip. This year he went into like the dark retreat. He went into like this 48 hour retreat where he's in like this 8x8 room. And it's pitch black. It's like a giant sensory deprivation tank, but it's a room. Right. And you're supposed to, clear your mind. And the only time you ever see anybody is when they basically slip a meal underneath your door. Okay. This is something people pay for.
Wow.
I'll lock you in my fucking bathroom. You want to give me a few $1,000s? I'll keep you in there for a couple of days and throw a saucer of milk under there once in a while.
Yeah, it sounds like solitary confinement.
Basically, that's what it is.
And you're paying good money for that.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. It is interesting. It kind of he has never said he's done any of this on the field, right?
Oh no! It's just off season.
Because that would be much more impressive, right? Like, who's the famous pitcher? It's like Doc Ellis, right? He pitched a perfect game on acid, right?
Is that true?
That's the story. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what year it was. It was let's see, 1970. The Pirates pitcher Doc Ellis should never be. He did something that should never be done. Not only did he play on LSD, he pitched a perfect game. And he was saying that the ball would look huge, like a beach ball, and then it would look like a little pea, and then like this. But whatever happened, it worked out for him. So, kids, I'm not saying this is a good idea. This is the only instance we know that ever worked out, but it is remarkable.
But here's the thing: we don't know how many people. I don't think anybody else has ever even tried it. Like, this could be the next, PED,
Right.
Just drop some acid, go out on the mound, and pitch a perfect game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it hurts as a fan, I can tell you that. So maybe it'll help the athletes.
Maybe we should see if Vitek can drop some acid. He'll probably be a fucking wreck 40 games in, 40, all his starts. I'm sure by the playoffs come, his mind will be mush. But let's try it.
Puck looks like a beach ball. That would be good.
Yes.
Right, exactly. That time it looked like a pea. It went by me.
Or, you spend 2 minutes not moving at all, and you're like,
exactly.
The time dilation can work against you, or it can work for you.
That's great.
I know we keep talking about it, but I keep going back to it. This is the other problem with nothing much going on. Like, you kind of keep on just kind of dwelling on
you're
one or two.
You're picking on that scab, right?
Yes.
Like, just keep picking at it.
And I've been, in my own mind, picking at the goalie scab over and over again. And I'm like, just go out and get Connor Hollowbuck. I really want him. And I know it's probably not going to happen. But, I mean, what do you guys think about just this year? Like, just renting him. Let's go get him. Let's make a push and get him for 1 year.
I'm not
and see what happens.
I'm not against it, but I don't think it's as bad as you do. Now, I could look back at that statement and go, dude, I don't know why I was not seeing things the way you were, and we're looking at a goalie situation that hurts us come next spring. But I actually think that, goaltending could have been a little better, but it was not the main flaw in their second round collapse. So I'm very happy about the prospect of Schmid, and I think that Vanacek. If we end up riding with him, I'm okay with that. That said, man, if we can get it, the price is right as a rental, it's not going to hurt the future of this team, which looks like it could build, maybe a dynasty even ahead of it. You don't want to, sabotage that. But if you could not jeopardize any of that future and get him even for just a year, without giving up maybe Schmid and any other player that looks like it's part of the future of this team, I would go for it. But
how about you, Bob?
Yeah, I think I've said before, if you're talking about like the depth of our prospect pool, if you could actually rent this guy for a year, I think we can dig into that and not really hurt the future. So one or two named guys are going to go there. I wouldn't want it to be Schmid. That just takes away from the very foundation of what we're trying to do. But if it was one or two of our A-list prospects that just can't seem to break through, and then maybe another guy drafted high where you really don't know where it's going to go for a chance, I don't think it's a terrible idea. I mean, our top six is locked up for 6 to 8 years. We got tons of prospects coming in. We got defensive prospects we're not even talking about because they're blocked by other defensive prospects.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we've got the room. So normally I would say, no, don't go out there and get rid of that kind of asset. But we have it. So if you can really work it out, I'd do it.
Well, I mean, I know what you like. Vitek, I like Vanacek. I think he played great last year. And it keeps coming down to we don't know what's going on with the goalie situation. I mean, they keep saying, possible sending Schmid down in Utica, letting him start the season there. And then who's going to play with Vitek? Now, what do you guys think about the kid Eric Colgren that we picked up? I think we got him in one of the trades this year. It might have even come over from the Toffoli trade. Was he part of that, I think? I'm not sure. But he is 6'3", 200-pound goalie. Let's see. Playing career. He appeared in 21 games last year. Now, the 2021 season, he appeared in 21 games for the Vasco Lakers. I don't know. I guess that's a European team. He had a 2.37 goals against, a .911 save percentage. 10 postseason games with them. He went 7-3-0 with a .937 save percentage. Let's see. He went to the Toronto Marlies. Then he was called up by the Maple Leafs after Jack Campbell was announced with an injury, and he served as a backup. Wow, that's weird. Colgren served as a backup that same night in a game against the Arizona Cardinals after Peter Mrazek allowed 4 goals on 12 shots. So he's got a little bit of, he's been around. He's got a little bit of, I guess, experience. Like, he played 21-22, 14 games with the Maple Leafs. He went 8-4-1. And then last year he played 10 games with the Maple Leafs, going 3-2-4.
How did they do playing against the Cardinals?
Playing against the Cardinals.
No, you said Arizona Cardinals. I think you meant.
Oh, did I? I meant the Coyotes.
Because I would love to see that matchup. I think that they would definitely handle.
We also screwed up on the last show we did. We were talking when I was doing the goalie thing, and I said John Madden instead of John McClain for a coach, and I meant McClain, and I said Madden, and nobody stopped me. So
no, I even said after. I'm like, yeah, I forgot about John Madden.
That's right, you did too. So we both fucking fell into that. But we were both thinking McClain, and we said Madden.
The most awful year ever.
But do you think that this kid maybe is a guy that they might decide to maybe give a shot instead of Schmid? I mean,
it sounds like he needs some AHL time. Maybe he's going to be playing with the Comets, and that would be pretty quick rise, especially the way they've been keeping their goalies, in the.
Sounds like a security depth move to me. I don't understand how the front office can't really think that we've got our 1-2 tandem figured out for the year. I don't know where this business of playing Schmid down in the minors came from. After what we talked about in the show, like, the barometer's been set. I don't know what else you want him to prove.
Yeah, do we know that anybody from the organization has said that, or are these just rumors from the media?
I think it's mostly rumors from the media. I know that the NJ, whatever it is, I can't even remember the name of the site. I think it might just be NJ.com, the double one. But they were the ones that I think that started it. That there was, I guess, that somebody in the Devils organization had said that they wanted him, Schmid, to start in Utica.
Right. So there's some truth to it, I guess, but maybe we don't know how low level this person was. Like, we don't really know.
Right. And another year in Utica is not a terrible thing as long as you have somebody to take the place and be able, like we talked about it. This team popped and the goaltending kind of is still a step behind. Like, now you got to catch up. And
that question mark is why you're thinking about it. Like, okay, if with Vanacek and who then? What are we doing?
You got, I know that, the idea of Hellebuyck, even for 1 year, like, the way this team is built right now, without injuries, if this team stays healthy, they should be really, really good. I mean, just really good. Yep. On paper, this team is loaded, and you look at Hellebuyck, he's made almost $32.5 million already in his career. The guy has got generational wealth. I know he wants $9.5 million, but isn't winning a few cups maybe a little bit more important? You've made a ton of money. So maybe you get this guy for the remainder of this year's contract. Maybe you go on a nice run. Maybe play for the cup, possibly win the cup. Then you can pull him aside and say, look, man, you want to stay here. You want to really cement your legacy and maybe win a couple more of these things. Maybe you can come on for 7.5, which is a doable deal. And maybe he says, hey, you know what? I like Jersey. I got a chance to play for a Stanley Cup every single year, and maybe you can convince him, kind of like what Fitzgerald did with Timo. Yep. I wouldn't be against it. I know, like, if Tony were here, he'd be going, I don't do it. I don't want to get him for 1 year, rental, blah, blah, blah.
I understand where Tony's coming from, but I see your point here, and it could be like a match made in heaven. Definitely. It could definitely work out. I have not heard, maybe you have, about once in a while when there's a big, prospect out, you hear like what his preferences are. I haven't heard, what his preferences are from any source. I don't know about you guys.
I think from everything I've heard, he's just been keeping quiet. And if they're going to move him, they're going to move him. And if not, he's willing to play this year for Winnipeg and then go test the free agency market next year. So he's being apparently a good soldier. He has said, I'm not planning on signing an extension, but he hasn't said that he's not planning on playing for them this year.
Right.
But, Winnipeg also has to look at, say, well, if the guy walks and we could end up getting something for him, he does have some value. I know goaltenders aren't like, a top 6 forward that you're going to get that kind of value. Even a guy like Connor Hellebuyck, he's not going to get it. Winnipeg's not going to get a huge haul for him, or at least they shouldn't. But, maybe you give him Vanacek and a prospect or two that they might need, and we can get Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah. I don't know who the Devils would be competing with for Hellebuyck, let's say, at the trade deadline. Let's say that it went that long, and he's going to play with Winnipeg this year, but they're going to unload him to try to give some value, like you said. I mean, who else is going to be out there goalie shopping right now? It just depends how well they do. Because, some of the biggest spenders are probably going to be good in that area. Like the Rangers are always looking to get the top prospect just because. But they got Shesterkin, so they're not going to be looking.
They're not going to be looking.
So, who else is really looking to, maybe Toronto.
I think there's in the East, I can think of at least, depending. I think there's a couple of teams that are in the same position that we are as far as goaltenders. I think Carolina and Toronto, New Jersey. I think that all three of those teams are kind of in the same position. We're like, they're serviceable, but are they good enough? Right. Every team looking over and seeing Shesterkin and Vasilevsky, and everybody wants one of those guys.
Right.
Sure. Hellebuyck is one of those guys. Right. That's why, I don't want to go into the playoffs and just shit the bed because our goaltending wasn't up to par, or, the team's not playing their best in front of Schmidt or in front of Vanacek, because, we saw it last year. Every time Blackwood got in the net, this team overcompensated and played like shit in front of him.
Oh, yeah. Goalies matter, definitely. But, if you have it's funny because it's almost like it cuts one way, and it's not really in the favor of the goaltender. And by that I mean, like, a bad goalie is going to hurt you, and I think that did that with Blackwood. But Shesterkin did not advance past the first round. Vasilevsky did not play for the Stanley Cup. This is so they don't guarantee you the win.
No,
either. It's not as a big impact as a quarterback on football.
What do you think, Bob?
I'm done thinking, man.
Fair enough.
Let's just go get them.
Fair enough. Before we go any further, I just got to do a little read here. We are now part of the Hockey Podcast Network, so you guys now can find us everywhere that you found us before, and now you can also find us on the Hockey Podcast Network. And the best place to go and place your bet, get a little skin in the action when you're betting on some games. And right now, you can go to DraftKings, maybe check out Devils Futures, maybe say, you know what, I like their over-under on points, or I think they're going to win the Metro, maybe even the Cup. You can go in now, still, even though hockey season hasn't started yet, and you can still get some bets in, get a little sweat in. New customers, all you got to do, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use promo code THPN, bet just $5 to score $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code THPN only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in West Virginia, gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. All games regulated by the West Virginia Lottery. Please play responsibly in partnership with Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. 1 boost per eligible game. Opt-in required. Max bet $50. 10-plus leg required for 100% boost. Eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions apply. That's DraftKings Sportsbook app, promo code THPN. Let's move on with some hockey.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
How's that good for our first read, huh?
Not bad.
Was that bad?
I'm
right?
going to give you mad props for that. That's a lot.
All right, thank you very much.
That's very good.
How about we just jump into another one?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Bang, bang.
Bang, bang.
If you enjoyed DraftKings, you're going to love this one.
If you enjoy DraftKings, you're going to love Raycon wireless earbuds. Right, Dan?
I do love these.
Now, you were down in Florida, and,
Yes.
Did you get away from the family every once in a while, throw your Raycons in and kind of just meditate to some good music? And...
I got pulled over in Georgia, and I'm listening to them instead of the cop. And he's like, you got to roll down your window and they sound so good. I didn't really care, and I was just smiling the whole time. So they're amazing.
See, because summer is about a state of mind, and whether you want to listen to, your favorite bands or the Uncle Puckers on repeat over and over, you just need to retreat inside your own head, create your summer soundtrack by popping in your Raycon wireless earbuds. And right now, they are definitely the best way to listen. They have triple tap function for the earbuds, the noise isolation, sound profile, awareness modes, have a 32-hour battery life, including 8 hours of playtime, so you can listen to what you want, when you want, for a really long time. They come with custom gel tips for the most comfortable in-ear fit, because there's nothing worse. You're at the gym, you're on the treadmill, your earbuds are flopping out of your freaking ears. Right. No, these fit, and they don't fall out. They start at half of the price of the other premium audio earbuds, so you can't lose. Create your own soundtrack with Raycon. Right now, listeners can get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/THPN. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to save 15% on Raycons. buyraycon.com/THPN.
Nice.
I'm going to need him to help me with this podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You should get yourself a pair of Raycons. Maybe you can borrow
I think I'm going to do it.
I think the wired... The days of wired, earbuds are over. They're dangerous. I once got them caught, and I almost tripped and fell. And this is not the kind of thing I want in my life. I want the Raycons. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Especially when you get old and we're clumsy and shit. Yes. Things just start falling apart as it goes. You don't need to add to it by tripping over wires.
Absolutely. I want all the wires in my life gone. I'm cutting the cord.
So, Bob, you got some stuff about Shesterkin. What's going on?
Yeah, so listen, I get the theme of this is just going to be looking for inspiration, right? August, slow, we're trying to find some things, and I thought there's no place better to go than our Twitter.
Okay.
And I'm gonna call out a couple people here with some really
X.
great ideas.
Our
X, excuse me.
You know what? Fuck
Glad
that.
it's not
We're gonna
read.
What do you mean, our X Twitter?
It's Twitter now.
It's X.
Oh, it's called X now?
Yeah, because
this guy's a maniac, right? He's
is
crazy.
an X-hole.
The URL is still twitter.com, but I guess they're eventually going to change that. But yeah, it's X.
Okay.
All right. I just found something out real quick about Elon Musk.
He's just my ex. Yeah.
Is he really an inventor, or is he just a really rich dude that bought these companies?
His parents own like diamond mines or some shit, and
yeah, because he didn't buy. I thought he started Tesla. He fucking bought Tesla.
The story I read was the guy who did the inventing and forming of that company. He now left because whatever, it didn't work out with him and Elon. And he runs that Lucid company, which I don't know how big that's going to get. Tesla's a huge company, and
But that Lucid is a beautiful car.
Yeah, I think it's starting out with the higher end models, kind of like Tesla did. Remember, they had a nicer one. Yeah, the ones you see on the road everywhere, they're not the sexier Teslas. Those are pretty much
the Lucid one. I think I'm not sure how many models there are. I think only a couple, but I think they start at 150. So you're paying for it.
Yeah, it's a good chunk of change. Good chunk of change.
All right, back to Shesterkin.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just seeing this all over the internet. I don't know if it's real, but I don't see a reason why it wouldn't be real. And apparently the quote is, to play against, probably right now, I'll name Hughes. And that's Igor Shesterkin on who the toughest player to play against is. Now, I can see the legitimacy of it, because Hughes has been doing quite well against him. Owning him. Again, I haven't verified this, but it started to pop up everywhere. Ranger fans are saying, why would you say that? Devils fans are saying, of course you would say that. It's just props to Hughes. It's not a big deal. But yeah, it was cool to see that. I think that, when Jack Hughes came out, we all know maybe it took an extra year than people thought. This guy's a bona fide superstar, just scratching the surface. And on the biggest stage like that against the biggest goalie, he has lit him up.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's a fair statement.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know why Ranger fans would get their panties in a bunch about that. What's your goalie was asked a legitimate question. He gave an honest answer. I mean, would you have gotten mad if he said Connor McDavid or no?
Sure,
you just got pissed because it was a fucking devil.
Right. Maybe he says it, but he sees Jack Hughes more, and then he saw him in the playoffs. So yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
and
I
to
don't
me,
know
you know,
what
he's the best goalie in the world. So
scoring percentages, but it's high. I mean, he doesn't miss much on Shesterkin, and Shesterkin's an amazing goalie. That's just how good Hughes is.
I was saying to the guys when you were away, Dan, like I was watching. I don't know if NHL Network put it out or if the Devils themselves put it out, but it was like a few minute clip of all Jack's like highlight goals of this season.
Oh, really?
And I was shocked at how fucking many of them were against the Rangers. Like as I'm watching, I'm like, holy shit, dude, he owned them.
Yeah,
and, you know, you just forget that it was that many. Like he constantly scores on the Rangers.
His first season, he wanted to be most impactful against the Rangers.
Yes.
I remember that came up as a question in media early on, and you could tell there's an extra little edge on his game when he plays the Rangers. He wants to dominate that team, and that's good news for the Devil fans.
He is a dude more than any other guy that we've drafted in the last 5 or 6 years that you could, like, within his second year, he's a devil. Like, this dude is a devil. He's proud to be a devil. He loves living here. You know, there's always clips around him every weekend. He's out at the beaches and doing what. Did you see the one with the volleyball players?
No, I did not.
You guys see that? So he got a little bit of shit for this, which I think is bullshit. Leave the kid alone. He's 21 years old. So he was at, I don't know where it was. It was probably a little bit north of us. A girls' volleyball tournament was going on. So he was in the middle of a huddle of all these girls in the volleyball tournament, and he's giving them like an inspirational speech. Right. And Jack's just like, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's like, remember, winning, it's about your heart. It's not about your boobs or your boobs or your boobs or your boobs. He goes around the whole thing. It's about heart. And all the girls are laughing, whatever. Like, he's just being a 21-year-old kid surrounded by all these good-looking girls. He makes $8 million a year. Why shouldn't he act like that? But people are like, oh, he's being disrespectful. He's not. He made a joke. Let's stop. Let's just stop and leave him alone. But he's going to be he's going to have an amazing career. Again, the only thing that worries me about Jack Hughes is just his size a little bit. And I know every year he'll get better, he'll bulk up, and he'll become more of a man.
So much more durable last year than the year before.
You saw it. It was noticeable.
He missed a total of 4 games, I think.
Yeah, that was it.
That's not bad. So.
No, and if he can get that this year, or all 82, I mean,
right.
Out of the new guys that are in, and I'm going to throw like Foote and Holtz in there because they have a good chance of making this team. So is Graham Clark. So let's throw all 3 of them. Graham Clark, Nolan Foote, Alex Holtz, Tyler Toffoli, Timo Meier. Who are you most excited to see this year?
Of the newer guys that we picked up between last season and this season.
Who are you most excited to see?
I have to stay with Timo Meier for a full year of a power forward of his size. He just, he was such a big get last year, and now to have him locked up for a reasonable contract, considering what he was initially going for, this is going to be exciting. I mean, he had 40 splitting with 2 different teams. He's going to be on this offensive team. He could hit 50.
Yeah.
And I think that you saw maybe 30-40% of what Timo Meier can do last year for the Devils. When you come... He wasn't just, a trade. It was a trade from the other side of the country where he's played his whole life. This is a big change coming to this team. Yep. New, learning a new system, all of that. I mean, what do you have, 20 games in a regular season before the playoffs started? And then the playoffs came, this team had no break whatsoever. I mean, they played more hockey consecutive or every other night. From like the last 2-3 weeks of the season right through the playoffs, he didn't get really even any practices.
And then he was hurt after the first round. That destroyed his second round.
Yeah, so to be able to practice, have a preseason with these guys, and then go into the regular season.
Line mate, probably not 2, but at least 1.
We still got Lindy, so we don't know how solid and line mates are going to be. But I got your point there, because if he can gel with certain players, it's going to be a totally different Timo. But I'm also excited about Toffoli too. You know what I mean? That he looks very dynamic, and he looks like the kind of guy that this team really needs. So
that's what we talked about before. That's like the bonus pickup, right? That was the out of left field.
Did not see that.
We just put in another 27 goals or whatever it was. Yeah, that's very incredible.
You guys think that, because I think Tyler Toffoli is going to play with Jack. I think that Timo is probably going to be playing up with Nico. And I really hope, and we know that Lindy has this penchant to scramble his lines more than any other coach. Right. I really hope he doesn't fucking do that this much this year. I really want to see, especially the top 6, I want to see them grow together. Yes. I want to see solid, consistent lines, and I know that that's probably not going to happen. But I would think Tyler playing with Jack would be awesome, and I just think with Tyler Toffoli's shot, Jack Hughes doing what Jack Hughes can do and getting him the puck from anywhere. And then you can sprinkle in Jesper Bratt on that line, and know that could be a freaking dynamic line.
I gotta believe that there's a natural progression to this as well, too, even with Coach Ruff, that where Meyer came in late last year. You're trying him out, not really picking up fire the first 2 games. You only got another 15 games to go to get some rhythm going. You move him around. You do have other teams, but as this team grows together, I gotta think Ruff's gonna pull back a little more. Just. It's all going to. You're learning who plays with who better, and I'm not against the way he shuffles lines most of the time. I think he's actually very good at seeing where there's energy missing, where one line's just hitting off, and some of the moves he makes really pays off. I'm against the ones that are instant. Right, here's the lineup.
That's what I feel like most of them are.
In 5 minutes, they're split up, but otherwise, I think it should evolve.
I mean, when they were, I'm asking this because I don't really remember, but during the 13-game win streak, was he juggling the lines as much as he was during outside of that? Because I kind of feel like maybe he wasn't, which would gain some credence. Would gain some credence to what you're saying, that if they're doing well and he's not going to just pull the trigger for the sake of pulling the trigger, which a lot of the times it seemed like last year. Like he was just me and Dan had the ongoing joke that it was like a fucking boggle button from the game where he would just pop the button and see what lines are going out.
You can argue that, especially with those early changes, but if you take a step back in retrospect and look at what happened in some of these games, they weren't bonehead moves. Like there was a process to it. There was a reason to it. They don't always work, but you can't argue with the results at the end of the year, whether you want to look at little micro spurts of the 13-game win streak or a 6-game win streak and all that, or look at it overall. It worked out. So I'm going to reserve my judgment. You know what I mean? Because I just want to see less of it in the beginning, because I do want lines to gel. But in game, mid-game, I can just see it. I understand it.
It's just tough as a fan because, you remember, like a really good winning percentage in hockey would be like 60%, which means that you're still losing 40%.
Right.
So if your coach is mixing it up a lot more than other coaches, you're okay with it when you're winning, but you're still going to be those times when you're losing and you're like, but wait a second, we lost this game and you put your fingerprints on it. You juggled those lines and you didn't give him a chance. So, all season long, I always go back and forth with him. And I was very conscious and aware that, you don't want to be that kind of guy who's like just a spoiled baby. Oh, my team lost. It was the coach's fault. He did something wrong. My team won. My coach is a genius. The truth is somewhere in between. The coach is doing what he has to do to achieve what you said, Bob. You're absolutely right. A good result at the end of the year.
Well, let me pose this to you. Let me pose it to you this way. We were fantastic at not giving up on a game and coming back late in games and winning those games.
Very true. Very true.
How much of that was just the will of simply the players or his mixing and matching of chemistry?
I think it's impossible to say that did not have a huge factor, even if it was some of the will of the players, because they know that the boggle switch is coming. You know what I mean? Like that was, and you'd have to ask them their individual motivations, probably in the moment, and hope you get honest answers. I think he definitely gets credit for this, and I'm just saying, as a fan, it's sometimes a little disconcerting. It's a little easier when you're a fan watching, going, well, the second line's not playing well. I think so-and-so needs to pick up his game, and I feel like I know what's going on. But when the coach is scrambling things, and he may be seeing things that we don't necessarily see, it just gets disconcerting when they lose, because it's like, what is the coach doing? What's he doing out there? Sure.
And one of the things, like last season, he was doing it all the time, and it was, became a freaking joke, but, and I thought, like, okay, he's just trying to find the right chemistry. Then we had that Tatar, I think it was Tatar, Hischier, Mercer line, and they were playing great. and he kept them together for like a week and a half, and then all of a sudden they started getting split up. Now their performance didn't diminish; they were still out there putting up the numbers. Why are you messing that lineup? That's the thing that gets me. Like, I get it. Jack's the best player on the team. You can plug him in anywhere, but think about like Jack and Timo, or Jack and Tyler, or just, one of those guys, and having a nice long 20 games together without changing them out. I don't care if you want to change out. I'm okay with changing out the other winger. If you want to drop Mercer down and move Brad up or something. But I'm saying, like, Heischer, Meyer, Toffoli, Hughes. Like, those guys got to stay together. Hala, Palat. Like, that to me, like, keep that core 2/3 of the line together. And he wouldn't do that. He would mix them all up. Now, Tatar then is now playing, with Palat on the third line, and he's got Mercer playing on the fourth line or wherever. And it's like, they're just, I'm okay with you maybe moving a winger around here and there, but let the two main dudes, the strongest 2/3 of that line, develop together. Because I think if the chemistry's there and it hits, and it might not be Toffoli and Hughes, it might be Meyer and Hughes, and it might take half a year to figure that out. And Lindy will have to do what he has to do.
That matters too, right? What part of the season, right? You really want to see like a Sissy come in maybe like the last third of the season. That's
probably when you want to see, yes.
When you see those guys who can only really play with their famous line mates, you wonder, like, okay, if something happens, can they still perform without, because they don't really get a lot of experience playing with other guys. So maybe there's an upside if they at least have some part of the season where they are, subject to that rotation.
Now, I heard somebody talking, and I don't remember where I heard it, so it might have been another podcast. If I'm not giving credit to it,
could have been voices in your head. I don't know.
It could very well be the peyote. My question, though, they were saying, like, is this a coaching style that is possibly has a chance to kind of become a popular coaching style in the NHL? Now, when I heard the question, the first thing I thought is everything in the NHL, in any league that's a copycat league, it's all result-based. Right. So if it works, sure. Now you're seeing every contender trying to bulk up on their D because Vegas won with their big, strong defensemen. And how do you do, so I get that. So if, like, the Devils go and win the Cup by Lindy boggling the fucking lines every week, then, yeah, maybe that becomes a thing. But I don't ever see that being a way. Now, part of, I think, our success was the fact that guys were, by the end of the year, very comfortable playing pretty much anywhere.
Right.
So, if that is, maybe that's his end game. Maybe that's what he's looking for. I don't know. It's just like, Dan, you said, as a fan, it is so frustrating to watch.
Yes, definitely. But Bob made a good point. You can't argue with the results.
No.
Especially when you consider that Lindy was charged with handling a young team. Young teams, with all the skill in the world, they can kind of crack. They go through those growing pains, and he guided them. And if this was part of his method, maybe it's for the best. It probably also leads to like a better team thing. Instead of two line mates, they're always playing together. I think there's more opportunity for like prima donna kind of,
right,
top athlete behavior when, you're always on your toes because you don't know who you're going out there with next. That maybe has a positive effect in that regard. So, I wouldn't be surprised, though, if, like you said, he changes his style a little bit because, it was a very, very young team, and it's less young this year. Right. It's more experienced. It's more ready for prime time. So I wouldn't be surprised with all the experience that Lindy has. He doesn't change his style at least a little bit, and especially like down the home stretch, the last quarter or third of the season. We're going to have to see.
I think when you look at anybody who's got any kind of remedial knowledge of hockey, looks at this team and looks at this lineup, and that, they should be so freaking good. Yeah. I think they have the potential to, be the best team in the NHL, not just the Eastern Conference, but I see this team possibly winning a President's Trophy.
Yep.
Do you also see a world, maybe this is just the contrarian in all of us, or at least in me, that like, what if everything just goes off the fucking rails? What happens if they just shit the bed?
I mean, anything's possible.
I know, and that's
without injuries. That seems so unlikely,
yes.
But it's not zero. That chance is not zero.
It's definitely not zero.
And it's also because, and the only reason I think I do feel this way is because it was just 1 year removed from an awful season.
Yeah, so
yes,
easy
it was
to forget.
riddled by injury and all that stuff. But then this year it clicked. And that's like, okay, this is the team, this is how they should play. This is what we were all expecting. And now it's here, and it's a little early, and that's great. But in the back of my head, I'm like, I need to see this for a second year to know that this is a really good team, ready for prime time all the time.
Even great players go on scoring droughts, and
yes.
you take one or two top players and put them a scoring drought around their neck, and this looks like a team that's going to struggle to get to the playoffs. You know, it can happen just like that, because don't forget, as stacked as the Devils look right now, you know, every team, and it's the top 32 we're at now, 32 teams in the world. So there's no bad teams out there.
Right.
Yeah,
just about, except for the Flyers, maybe.
That's what I was thinking. If you pace this back, ask me in the late 90s, early 2000s, if we had a team of this caliber, I'd be way more comfortable saying they're going to sustain that. But in today's day and age, like, a lot of these teams are so close. I mean, it's a few points here or there. It's a totally different situation. I don't think we'd fall enough to not make the playoffs. But I am also, there's that little bit of doubt in the back of your mind, sure.
I will say that I think a huge part of this team's success this coming season is going to be the first third of the season. They have got to start hot. And you look at the 13-game win streak and the position that put us in to be able to have a piss-poor December like we did and still just be completely comfortable in making the playoffs. I mean, yes, they righted the ship in January, but
took a lot of pressure off them,
I'm not exactly. I'm not saying a 13-game winning streak is a necessity, but I'm saying you need to be one of the top teams out of the gate and play that way, because after the All-Star break, like, you really want to be in a position where you know you're going to make those playoffs, and you don't want to be that team like Florida last year or even Buffalo where, you're playing your ass off for the last 4 or 5 weeks of the year before to even just get into the playoffs. It's not a position that is enviable for any team. And a clean, good start is what I want to see from this team.
And we might not be doing a prediction show, but in the same vein of what you just said you're looking for, what do you think the chances are, and what would it take to get another Fire Lindy chant up from the
at least the first 3 games?
0-1.
Yeah, we're going to give him one more, just to refresh everybody's memory after the second loss in a row to open the season.
All right,
the fans at the home opener were chanting Fire Lindy, and we've talked about this before, but if anybody hasn't heard, we were kind of like, look, that obviously was premature. I understand where some fans are coming from. It's like, let's get better than this. Then we're looking at the past season.
Sure.
So, but I do wonder, like, look, there is a number. There has to be a number, right? How many losses will it take before we hear a Fire Lindy chant?
I think literally our fans would do it in jest the first game. Like, we lose a home opener, they're going to do it. Yeah. And it'd be for funny, though. I honestly don't think 0-5. Maybe, even though I said 0-1. Like 0-5, sure, it'll definitely come out for real. But I think almost no matter what, our first loss, they'll probably do it.
Well, I mean, we open up against the Red Wings. That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
All right. Then we play the Yotes.
Mm-hmm. That
should be a win. And we play the Panthers. That's going to be a tough one. And then the Islanders, and then the Canadiens, then the Capitals and Sabres and Wild. So let's stop there. That's October. If we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If we go 2-6, I think maybe you get a Fire Lindy chant, and maybe you should fire Lindy.
Yeah.
What do you think? Out of the month of October, I think you got to be better than 2-6 to get. That would be a terrible month.
I think you definitely want to be better than 2-6.
Yeah, but I think Lindy keeps his job anything better than 2-6.
Yeah, 3-5. It's like, okay, well, this is pretty, not the start we were looking for, but let's face it, one more game, we got a 500 team, and we could have taken that. Yeah. But you're right, at 2-6 looks like a very lopsided 25% of your games. You're winning.
Especially if the wins are like the Coyotes and the Canadians, like two bad teams. And then you lose to each the rest of them. That might be, What do you think, Bobby?
Just when you read that schedule to me, I kind of got nervous just because I'm like, okay, we could lose opening day. Sure, I think we're better than the Red Wings. We should win that game, but we can lose it. And then you go to Arizona. I don't think we can lose that game. I don't think there's any way we should lose that game. But then some of those other teams you brought up, they're not walks in the park. I mean, Florida, the Islanders. So it is very possible they could start off under 500.
Well, the first three games are at home. All right. I think we beat the Red Wings. I think we beat the Coyotes. I think Florida is going to have, half of their starters out getting, rehabbing surgeries. So you should win that. The Islanders are going to be tough. You should win that. You should beat the Canadians. You should beat the Capitals. Maybe the Sabres give you a rough time.
Looks like an 8-0. You're calling it.
You should be. You should be. You should be.
You should win most of them.
You should be 8-0 in October.
It's crazy because when you look at this, you start talking about it, and you're giving your honest opinion. Anybody might well go, "Oh, yeah, it was this bunch of homers." 8-0. Come on, dude. But then when you really look at this team against the teams you just said, and give the reasons why, barring any kind of craziness, you got to pick the Devils in all 8 games. This is why it's so exciting to be a Devil fan right now.
Yeah.
It's not homerism to say they could go the month of October as 8-0.
I can see a team like Buffalo, though, like really charging up to play us. And I bring this up because here's what's going to happen if we don't start off great. Not bad, just not great. We're going to hear all this bullshit, and I think you guys might even disagree with me on this, about how the Devils can't sneak up on anybody anymore. Is it not going to surprise them like they did last year? And I hate that. If an NHL team was seriously surprised by the Devils by mid-year, then they weren't paying attention, and none of them were doing that. Sure, maybe the first few games, people were like, wow, they're really fast, but word got around the league. And they make it sound like there was no chance any other team was going to win until that season ended. They needed the season to end before they realized the Devils were good.
See,
that's just bullshit.
I didn't take it that way. I didn't take it that way when people say like they snuck up on people. I didn't take it the way you took it, which is probably the right way. To me, it was because like Matt Barzal said it after the first game the Islanders Devils played last year, and the Devils skated them into the ground. They won the game, and Barzal said, we had no idea just how fast they are.
Sure, until you see it. I get it.
But now the thing is, like, when you sneak up on on teams, it could just be the fact that they can't skate with you. It's not so much like they're shocked at how good they are. It's just we can't compete with that. Like, that was, I think a lot of these teams didn't expect. Yes, I get that, they didn't expect the Devils to be that good, but it was, I think their speed was the one thing that just took them out of the game. Like, there's not a lot of teams that can literally hang with the Devils when it comes to speed. And I think that was, and and their I guess it's a little bit of both. Like, I think it's because they were the Devils that people just kind of were like, it's the Devils. And, you think of the Devils of the last 10 years, and they're not scaring anybody. And then they get out there and you're like, holy shit, this is a fucking really fast, really good, really skilled team. And so, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I know, like, they I guess you're right. Like, they're not going to, if you really didn't know what you were getting by the second time you played them, you weren't paying attention.
Your logic does make sense. But I know that every team has scouts that watch, like, the game they're going to play next, like, several times in a row.
Right.
They got, analytics up the ass. They got it all ready for them, but they're still – you watch NHL tonight when the season started and they're doing their previews. I guarantee you at least 2 different commentators on that or the radio show, whatever, are going to be like, well, the Devils aren't going to sneak up on anybody this year.
No, so, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is, some of the players, especially maybe the more experienced ones who've been beating the same team for so many years, and they might have heard, like, oh, Devils improved this year. And they're like, yeah. Because they told me that last year.
Right.
So maybe that's kind of what Barzal was talking about. Like, hey, you know what? I heard that they were faster, but until I saw it, I was like, wow, this is...
Yeah, see, I get a guy like that. He was probably in the room watching tape the day before and said, yeah, they're fast. We get it. And then he gets on the ice and you're like, holy cow, collectively, this is faster than I could have imagined.
And a team like the Islanders... there's no answers when you're a team like the Islanders. There's really not, you know. I mean, the only way to beat them is just play a super boring game.
Trap them down.
Very positional.
Clog up the middle of the ice.
The Islanders trap.
They
for years.
They play it
they
play it really good too. You know, they just don't get any offense, but they do play the trap very good. But that's Lou. I mean, he's going to bring that wherever he's going. But they have goaltending too. There's just not many teams, like, to me, that's why I keep going back to, like, Connor Hellebuyck, and I'm like, this team allows, like, I think that if you go, Winnipeg had last year, trying to see real quick, so they allowed, or gave up, scored on average 3 goals a game. They were 21st. We were 4th. So Connor Hellebuyck is going to get that much more goal support.
Yeah, sure.
All right. They were 10th at goals against. All right, Winnipeg. We were 8th. So it's kind of right there. They were 23rd in the power play. We were 13th. They were 6th in the PK. We were 4th. All those metrics, we were better than them. And mostly it's that puck support, that goal support. Like, Connor Hellebuyck is not going to have to do the shit that he did in Winnipeg every night. I mean, for a guy like that, he should have lead the league in shutouts playing for this team. You know, for all intents and purposes, with what he does, like, to me, it's...
And its winning percentage is going to go up like crazy.
Yes.
You know? And that's
I
what really
know
matters.
that they're so young and the window's only just opening and all that other bullshit, but why not go for a fucking cup now? Yeah. Why not seriously throw everything out there and say, we want to win the cup right now? We feel like this team is good enough to do it. The only thing that we need is a fucking Hall of Famer goaltender, and you go and you put Hellebuyck back there. I just think that's the move that sets this team up for this year, that like nobody else.
I would be surprised if we ever hear that, you know, they were totally not even trying on this. You know?
Oh, I think they were trying.
I think they're trying, and
Definitely
I think they have not
this option.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep that hold that candle for him all season long, hoping that they can, you know, bring him in. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to talk about it now, so that's probably why we're not hearing it. But I also feel like they make a good point when they go, we're not concerned with the goaltending we have going into next season. It's true, but it's also only technically true, because I think they would totally agree with you and with us that if you can make that move, it would be a very, very good move, as long as you can do it without hurting the team, as we all agree.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. It's just that touch better, right? Like in baseball, It's wins against replacements. So there's a stat where it says this shortstop will literally get you 4 more wins this year than the average.
Right.
We don't have that in hockey, but you already know he's going to do that. You can put a number on that and just say, in general, this guy is that much better. Pencil him in for 5 more wins than your average Devil goalie this year.
Yeah.
I mean,
I will be honest,
could easily say that.
I feel like the biggest question mark for me is the defense, and it's not like I'm questioning how good they could be. I'm questioning, well, how good can they be? They could be amazing. We've had massive changes on defense, and I think pretty much all of them are for the better. You know, Graves, I liked him a lot, but everything else, all the subtraction to me has been addition rather, not addiction. And
got that Florida in him already.
That's right. And the new guys they brought in and are coming up right now are just like scary good. So if this gels as a working defense that, you know, every pairing knows its role and they're successful, I mean, that's going to be more important than getting Connor Hellebuyck. That's the way I feel. I feel like
I think they go hand in hand.
Well, then, you know, you have an amazing team top to bottom, but I'm just saying that this defense could be upgraded more than the goaltending could.
Yes.
From last year to this year. That's the only thing I'll say. I'm not saying that Connor Hellebuyck's not going to be an upgrade over Vanacek or Schmid.
What you're saying makes total sense, because I agree. I think that our defense is going to, and I do think it's going to take a little while. It's going to take 20 games or so till this, you know, they figure it out. Now, if those 20 games of, you know, until you figure it out, who would you rather have back there, Connor Hellebuyck or, you know, Vitek Vanacek while they're trying to figure it out? But I think Luke Hughes is a superstar. I mean, this kid is going to be so freaking good. Yep. And you know, I know that I was listening to Fitzgerald on the Spit and Chicklets podcast, and he was talking about Simone Nemec. And, you know, he said, like, we don't need him up, but we really hope that he basically just gives us every reason to keep him up. Like, you know, essentially, like, come in and make sure, like, I'm not going back down there. And you make that. Now, if we have those two young guys, which their trajectory is, like, superstardom, right?
By the way, that was the case with Hughes last year. They were not necessarily going to keep him into the playoffs.
Right.
He played so well, they're like, we can't send him back down. Right. So if you got another one of those coming up, wow.
Exactly. And then, you know, the guys that we already have, I think this defense can be so good that a guy like Siegenthaler can find himself healthy scratched a lot of nights because of just how deep and good this is. And Siegenthaler is a very good defenseman. It is a fantastic problem to have. It's all just right there, and I'm just impatient, and I want hockey to start. You know?
Yeah,
I just want to see this team out on the ice.
I hate to say it, a couple months, really.
I know.
Well, I got something that should make you feel a little better, too. From one of our followers on X, it's Big Head Hockey. He posted this. Again, I did not check it, but I'm sure he's right. All the players last year to score 40 or 40-plus goals and 150 hits. There were two. Alexander Ovechkin and Timo Meier.
Wow. No shit.
How about that for company? I mean, because that is awesome. Just two in that kind of power forward role. So that is pretty exciting. Goes back to my thing about I just want to see Meier all year.
Yes. Same here. Dude, the top six can seriously be so scary. I don't know any team that's going to want to play them. It's just going to be so much freaking fun to watch.
Yep, cannot wait.
And on that note, I think we are going to... Did Bobby got something else?
You know, I just wanted to... Again, I started off earlier saying inspiration through some of our social media. And there's a particular guy out there I want to mention in one of his posts. We're not going to steal his bit. I'm just going to run through what he said. Just kind of food for thought. But it's the Brat Pack, if anyone's listening out there.
Okay.
I don't know the guy. I know a lot of fans have talked about this guy. This guy is so good in social media. Like, I'm social media light for sure, right? Like, most of my stuff is family, friends, that kind of thing. And every now and then I try to say something clever or funny. And, you know, maybe 1 out of 10 really sticks.
Some people are really good.
This guy is really good. He's just a genius when it comes to it. I wanted to give him props. I'll give you one example and then the reason that I brought it up. There was a post about breaking news that the Red Wings have acquired Jeff Petrie at 50% retained from the Montreal Canadiens, blah, blah, blah. And he just writes subtly, Red Wings fans, when Yzerman acquires a 35-year-old defenseman who scored 5 goals last year, and it's Larry whatever from Seinfeld, and he's just like jumping, Larry David, just like losing his shit in like a meme about how excited they are.
Right.
And it just hits the mark. But what I saw today, it got me thinking, I just wanted to put it out there. He said, what would a baseball team look like if you took the Devils' current lineup and filled it in? So the Devils are playing baseball. So again, I'm not going to steal his bit. I just want to run through what he said because I looked at it at a glance. I'm like, I get it. I get his lineup. And I thought it was a fun thing, and I wish we had thought about it because it'd be fun to do. But he has Bratt at center field leading off.
Okay.
Keisher batting 2 at third base. Jack
Meier.
Hughes, shortstop, batting third.
Okay.
Timo Meier cleaning up and playing right field.
All right.
Okay.
Dougie Hamilton playing first base.
First.
Mercer over at left. Toffoli or Palat as catchers.
Okay.
Luke Hughes playing second base, and he's got Vanacek pitching. Now, at a glance, I don't know how much I would change. And I just thought that was awesome. I'd love to just get involved with some of these comments on his thread here. But the guy's a beast out there. He's got like 17,000 followers. I can't even do justice enough of the things that he puts out in the Twitter world. It's just spot on and fun.
Check him out.
There was something that before we wrap up tonight that my wife sent me today on Facebook, and it was pretty funny. So it's like a bunch of little kids, right? And they're being taped, and it's like, you know, they're like talking about like bad dad jokes, and the whole thing is like a PSA about dad jokes, and they're just not funny, you know. And like the one kid's just sitting there, and he has his head down, and the woman interviewing, and she's like, "So what did he say to you?" You know, and he's like, he said, "You know why you have to wear 2 pairs of socks when you play golf?" And what'd you say? He said, case you get a hole in one, and the kid just like has his head down, right? Like it's all sad, and it's like
it's
this,
painful.
Yes, it's like there's like dramatic music behind it, and the whole thing. Like dad jokes aren't funny, and they did like 3 or 4 jokes of all these different kids with their terrible dad jokes. It was really funny, but I was just thinking like, who comes up with that shit? Because it's hysterical. Like I'm not clever enough, nor do I have the time or the know-how to even put a video together.
With a zinger, and it's like 5 people saw it. I'm like, no, I got to repost this. This was funny. Why did I not get my reaction? Yeah.
On that note, we are going to wrap it up. We are going to have the 4 of us back for the next show, where we will definitely get back into The Devil You Know and a bunch of stuff that we haven't been able to do because we are all going through our summer vacation times and stuff now, but we should be back now. We got a bunch of preseason stuff to do to roll in. Don't forget, guys, you can find us now on the Hockey Podcast Network, and you can find us everywhere else that you get your podcast. So please download the show, give us some likes, subscribe, tell a friend, whatever you got to do. For Dan and Bobby, I'm Chris. We are the Uncle Puckers, and we'll see you when we see you.
Puck is out.
Later.
It's over, Johnny. It's over.
All right.
Very